Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat. Today I'm doing an unhaul because my shelves have gotten overfull. As I buy books and as my daughter gets books, we just have no room. So I'm going to get rid of some things today. Most of them I have no ill will towards because I wouldn't have kept them this long. So I did sort them somewhat into categories, and we're gonna start out with horror. First up is The Hunger by Amakatsu. I have picked this up and started, I think, twice, and it just didn't grab me. And then I looked at reviews and it says that this is more of like an extremely, extremely slow horror, which has to do with a true story, I think, of when people were traveling across America and they had to revert to cannibalism, I think. But anyway, yeah, it didn't grab me, and so I'm gonna donate it. Then we have Spiral by Koji Suzuki. This is the second one after Ring. I have Ring and have not read it. I should read it. I really should read it. Maybe this year for Halloween. But because I have the first one and haven't read it in years, I figure I can let the second one go. Because clearly it's not, it's not jumping into my arms. I'm not wanting to read it. So I'm gonna let this one go as well. So next we're gonna do science fiction fantasy, and I have science fiction. It's a feminist sci-fi classic called Native Tongue, which has to do with a futuristic sci-fi world where women are property, and two women decide to create a language for women so that they can rise up against their shackles. That sounds perfect, and I know that that is why I picked this up. However, it is extremely dense, written in the way that many sci-fis are, and that's unfortunate because I do not really love dense sci-fis. As well, this is the first in a trilogy, so the thought that I'm going to read 3 dense sci-fis, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. So we're going to let that one go. I have Who Fears Death by NetGalley. Now this one I thought long and hard about because I have loved some NetGalley, notably Book of Phoenix, and some I have really not liked. The one Remote Control I really didn't like. So NetGalley is very hit and miss for me. And I have just had this for beyond years. I think I bought it in Japan or Korea when we lived there. So it's been ages and I have not wanted to pick this up, so I don't think I will. And then we have one, The Binding by Bridget Collins. I did read this and I liked some things about it. It's about a kind of dark fantasy world where there are these things called binders, and they take people's memories and bind them into books. And one of the characters is an apprentice, and it kind of has to deal around that world. There are really dark things in here. I just didn't like a few aspects in here. I thought they were unnecessary and needlessly cruel. Yeah, so this one just left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. All right, next up, we're getting into historicals. So this had kind of a historical fantasy, and now we're out of fantasy and we're just into historicals. So this is a romance, The Wallflower Wager by Tessa Dare. I actually really like this. I liked this enough that I then sent my copy to my mom in the US. So she reads romance, mostly historical romance. So she read it, and then to be funny, she sent it back to me, but I've already read it, so I don't need to keep it. Yeah, so this is just a sweet romance between Lady Penelope, who is basically the super tender-hearted like creature lover, and her kind of curmudgeonly neighbor who has come up in society, and he's very gruff, and you know how romances work. Next we have Sojourn, The Boy Who Never Was. This is set in Reykjavik. And it is about coming of age, but then also ostracization of some people. And it's just set in like this really dreary place. And I read this because I'd never read something in Reykjavik before. And I just remember being like, it was okay. I think I gave it 3 stars. So I will never reread this. And I know that other people I know who love historical fiction will want this. So they will gladly take this. They'll probably take, the person I'm thinking of will probably take all of these historicals. Next up, we have Bodies of Light by Sarah Moss. I've read Sarah Moss before and really, really liked her writing. This one just wasn't interesting to me. Like, the premise was not interesting. So it's a coming together and falling apart of a family of idealists in Victorian Manchester. It deals with a painter, someone who campaigns against child prostitution, and kind of the push and pull between living for others and living for yourself, modernization versus country life, all those kind of things. I did get, I think, like a quarter of the way through, but I was just not loving it, and it was going to put me in a reading slump, so there's no need for that. This is the year where if I'm not vibing with something, I like DNF it as soon as I feel that. So yeah, no thanks. Then we have The Good People by Hannah Kent. Again, I read oh, they're both in here. So we'll do it this way. So I have Burial Rites by Hannah Kent in here. Don't worry, I'm gonna give this to someone who will probably love this book and will treat this beautiful copy with the respect it deserves. Like, look, look at how stunning it is. It's beautiful. So I read Burial Rites, and I remember the setting and the atmosphere was so evocative. This one is about the last woman to be executed is it Ireland? It is in Iceland, my bad. So this is about the last woman to be executed in Iceland, and it has won like so many awards. Unfortunately, this has 0 staying power for me. So despite at the time me thinking that the atmosphere was really good and I did like read it and enjoy it, I think I gave it 4 stars. I remember nothing about this book. So then when I picked up, also by Hannah Kent, The Good People, this has to do with people suspecting a child of being a changeling and people trying to protect that child. I thought that I would feel the same. The writing is beautiful and the setting is beautiful. Very dark, dreary. It like sinks into your bones, but I just couldn't get into the story. Like, most historicals just aren't gonna work for me. I think for some reason I'm just not, that's not my thing. So these, again, will go to the person that I know really loves historical fiction, and they will love having these. So they can enjoy them, that's perfect. And the last historical I have is The Morning Bird. I bought this years ago when I was trying to read more from Africa. So this is set in Zambia, and it's about a brother and a sister who suddenly find themselves on the streets, and they are dealing with life during the HIV/AIDS epidemic, as well as dealing with infidelity and unaliving. It's basically supposed to be the dark underbelly of Lusaka's streets, as they are street kids living through a military coup, riots, and a declining economy. So it's a snapshot of a place I've never been, that I know nothing about. However, as I was reading on, again, I just couldn't get into it, and it's just not for me, and I know someone who would love to have that, so there we go. All right, now we are into like modern fiction, I guess, and there's a few that I don't even need to talk about in here. So these two, we all know what they are. Where the Crawdads Sing. I liked this when I read it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Everyone and their mother and their grandmother has probably read this book and knows about it, so I don't need to tell you about it. And then Under the Tuscan Sun, I think the movie is one of my mom's favorite movies, so I wanted to read it, but then I realized, like, that's not my thing at all. So I started it, wasn't into it, and it's very Eat, Pray, Lovey. And no offense to Eat, Pray, Love, but like, it's just not my vibe. So I'm sure that someone else will like that better than me. All right, and now we have the 2 books on here that I would say are the weird books. We have The Baby by Marie Darissec, who is a French writer. This is her nonfiction. It's kind of like a journal, kind of like essays on being a new mother. They're very weird, kind of surreal. Her other work that I read was Our Life in the Forest, which has to deal with like people writing as their body is falling apart and disintegrating. So she's very like surrealist, kind of like you don't know what's happening. In this, she talks about motherhood in such a unique way that I find it very interesting, but in a like, that's her journey, that's interesting kind of way, not in a like, oh, I'll listen to what she's thinking about and integrate it into my parenting. There's two very different things. So I'm reading to see like sticky beaking basically, like what she's doing, and I will never reread this, so it can go. And the last one is The Pisces by Melissa Broder. Now don't get me wrong, I like a weird story, okay? I have no issue with her being depresso espresso, that's also me, and I have no problem with her falling in love with a merman, could also be me. I'm married, but it could be me. My main problem was that she kills a dog, okay? And she's not supposed to be like this mega villain, but I feel like we didn't address it enough. I feel like there were no repercussions enough, and I just couldn't, I'm like, oh, I immediately hate you. And I didn't care about her at all. I was like, go to jail, and I don't care. Yeah, so I'm an extreme animal lover, and I was like, okay, well, you're a horrible person. So this can go to someone else. And now we are into the ones that are, I think they're all YA. This is my last section. And these are YA that, there's 2 that I didn't like, 3 that I did like, but I will never reread them. And also I don't have anyone in my life that is reading at this level. So everything that is middle grade or below, I can give to my niece or save for my daughter, but they're only 8 and 2. So these that are for older teens, there's no need for me to hold on to them. So first we're gonna talk about Stolen by Lucy Christopher. Now this won a bunch of awards. And it's about a girl who's kidnapped from an airport by a man who like is stalking her and in love with her, and he takes her to the outback in Australia. When I first read this, my face the whole time was like, what is going on? Because I think the reason I don't like this is the end. I think she either defends him in court or like loves him, and I'm like, immediately no, that's not happening, which I don't know why. It won a bunch of awards. Gross. Speaking of gross, we have Unteachable by Leah Reeder. This I got so long ago, I didn't even know what it was, but I was trying to clear my shelves out, so I read into the first few chapters of a few books. This one I was like, wow, it is written just, back in high school. I was like, okay, well that's fair enough because it's for high schoolers. But then I was reading Goodreads reviews, and the ending is awful. awful. So no thanks. It's about a student-teacher relationship in high school. No thanks. So now we're to the ones that I did actually like. I just don't think I'll ever reread them, and I don't know anyone to give them to. So I have The Surface Breaks by Louise O'Neill. This is a little feminist Little Mermaid retelling, and look at that cover. Gorgeous. So sometimes when I go to little libraries, when we visit our friends in the city, I will take some books, leave some books. So that's probably where these will go, because, yeah, like I said, I don't know any young adults, but I can trade for some books next time we go to the city. And then we have Slay by Brittany Morris. This one I went back and forth, thinking about keeping or not, but she's 17. My daughter's 2. Okay, it's gonna be a while. This is about 17-year-old Kira, who's a college student and one of the only black kids at her academy. But at night, she plays the online game Slay. She is actually the game developer. However, a teen is murdered over a dispute in the online world, and the media labels it exclusionist and racist hub for thugs. But she must fight to save the safe space she's created and to protect herself as well. So I remember really liking this, and I recommended this to my husband, who is a high school teacher in Australia. And this was one of the finalists that he recommended to the school for options. Yeah, so this is really good if you're looking for something for a teen or younger reader. And the last one is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I remember crying really hard over this book, even though the title says they both die at the end. So I definitely went through the Adam Silvera phase maybe 10 years ago, just like I think everyone else did, or is, depending on your age. And I think this will find the perfect sad girl or sad boy and be like their favorite book of all time. So who am I to stop them from experiencing that? And that is the last book in this pile. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Exactly 20 books. What are the odds of that? Yeah, I didn't count or anything. I just was taking books off. So that's a cool 20. And now I have all this space for more books for me and for my daughter. So I will talk to you in another video soon. Lots of love. And I hope you're having a fab day. Bye.